Hi everyone, I wanted to follow up on my AI/ML demystified video with something more focused towards cloud and data center operations. Firstly, if you're not familiar with the very basics of AI/ML, what it is, where it's come from, and where it might be going, I'd encourage you to go back and check out the video from my channel called AI/ML Demystified. For this two-part video, I asked myself the question, how can we start to make use of AI/ML if we're not a developer or a data scientist? Over these next two videos, I'm going to go through some of the background, the problem or opportunity that exists, a bit about what AIOps actually is, some of the tools that can help, what I think the future looks like, and finally try to answer that question. Let's get started and jump into some background. Well, my role in VMware is all about cloud and cloud management. So my conversations are usually with people who care about building, running, or managing applications in the public or private clouds and caring about everything that's required to do so. So I've been thinking about, firstly, how AI is going to affect these people, but secondly, what opportunities it creates for different roles, and specifically roles in the IT operations space. So do we need another XOps? We've got loads of them. So we've got everything from DevOps to GitOps, SecOps, DevSecOps. It's all about the ops these days. It's the hub. It's mission control.
Houston, we've had a problem.
But what about AIOps? Well, just as operations responsibilities have started to shift left to developers becoming DevOps, AIOps is currently in that kind of strange place where people talk about it as a tool or a set of tools. We thought like this when DevOps came out 12 years ago. And we were very silly back then, and we tended to think of DevOps as being, a tool, and that tool was called Jenkins, Ansible, or sometimes, and yes, I have heard this, we thought DevOps was just what Kubernetes does. And thankfully, DevOps is, pretty well understood now, and we're beyond this thinking, and most of the IT industry get it. DevOps is really about breaking down those silos, changing the ways developers and operations teams work together to produce better software. And this isn't a video about DevOps, and I'm going to move on to AIOps, but that's really the kind of thinking that I'd like you to have as we explore AIOps, because I think that's a roadmap we can expect AIOps to start taking. But whereas DevOps took 12 years to get there, my prediction is that AIOps is going to come to fruition much, much faster. Gartner coined the term AIOps, and they currently define it as AIOps combines big data and machine learning to automate IT operations processes, including event correlation, anomaly detection, and causality determination. Then, reading Gartner's definition, right now AIOps is probably going to be used as a snazzy new buzzword or label for basically any monitoring tool that uses an algorithm or some kind of machine learning. And there are many of these tools already out there today, fantastic software that leverages machine learning technology to dramatically improve IT operations. And they should definitely be used in any modern data center or cloud. I'm going to talk some more about some of the tools themselves later that fit into this new kind of bucket, so bear with me. But let's remember, AIOps isn't a set of tools. It's a whole new way of approaching IT operations. Let's talk about what problem or opportunity currently exists and why we need AIOps. Applications are driving more complexity. That's pretty much the base for absolutely any IT problem today. Things are complex now. Digital transformation has been happening for years now. In fact, we've been talking about it since the 90s. Back in the 90s, it meant a company having a website. Now, the website is the company. Businesses are embedding technology into their products or are building new digital products. Digital transformation has meant the way that we work has needed to change to catch up to that. And it's led to things like DevOps, Kubernetes, microservices, functions as a service, CI/CD with automated pipeline. All of these amazing people, process, and technology changes. And all of these things happen because basically the old way wasn't working. Methodologies were becoming too slow, silos meant different handoffs between teams taking a long time, and essentially people were moving too slowly for the technology. Now, we're in a world where processes are becoming so heavily automated that we can write some code, push some new code for a new app into production every 10 seconds, or even less for some. The humans are still there doing the creative piece, figuring out what the app does, what it looks like, how to access it, etc. Humans write the code for the app, and then everything else required to get that app from the laptop of the developer into production can be automated with CI/CD. All of the testing, staging, user acceptance, everything, all of this can be automated. And that really should be your goal as a company if you aren't already. McKinsey reports that 57% of companies have started using automation in one or more business functions. Automation really is the key, but if you do things faster, you must have that foundation to keep it going. In that respect, the burden is now falling into the operations teams again. Everything's moving faster than the eye can see. IT ops, or cloud admins, which is basically IT ops for someone else's data center, they might not have to look after specific apps as much anymore since DevOps starts to cover this. But now they might have to look after Kubernetes. They might have to surface newer things to developers like Lambda. They have completely different database types to monitor. They have different clouds to manage with different APIs to access them and different functionality in each one. They have more of everything to deal with. Today, nobody wants them to become the bottleneck. The days of making an app and then throwing it over the fence for ops to look after is over. DevOps has really allowed operations teams to give some of the burden of looking after apps to the developers themselves. But there's much more that we can do, not just to remove the bottleneck from ops further, but actually have ops become an enabler for innovation. As Gartner says, AIOps combines big data and machine learning to automate IT operations processes, including event correlation, anomaly detection, and causality determination. So what does this mean? I'd like to break down into each piece. Let's start with big data. This is a vast amount of data, structured or unstructured. This is where all of your useful information is waiting to be analysed. If anyone's ever tried to run a query on a large database before, which took a long time, think of that, but way larger. So large, in fact, that traditional tools just can't query it. Machine learning. Well, hopefully you watched my previous video, but essentially machine learning is this overarching AI concept where a machine can assess their success from their output and change how they process the data without a human so that they can have a better output next time, hence learning. Then we can combine big data and machine learning to start to automate IT operations processes. Well, I think that piece is pretty self-explanatory, but the examples that Gartner give are event correlation, anomaly detection, and causality determination. Event correlation is bringing together events from multiple different places. For example, networking devices, virtualization platforms, cloud services, all of it together. Then filtering, tidying up all of the data, removing any duplications, and then it looks at relationships and patterns between all of these events, ready to use for root cause analysis. No longer having to have 20 different tools open for each of those devices, trying to correlate events manually. Anomaly detection, which is really noticing when something's different. For example, my app usually has 1,000 users logged in at this time on a Friday. But today, I can see that it's only got 100 users logged in. That's an anomaly and could be a good indicator that there's actually a problem with the platform. But why is this happening? Causality determination seeks to answer that. So once we've correlated events and looked for anomalies, we can start to use this to find the root of a problem. Maybe the number of users logged into the app dropped every time a particular firewall is upgraded, for example. Ultimately, the use of AIOps changes this whole process from hours and hours of work to seconds with this automation. And we've not even touched how to automate fixing these issues too, which is the next stage. Maybe that's for another video. So then, AIOps combines this big data and machine learning to automate IT operations processes, event correlation, anomaly detection, and causality determination. Make sense? Hopefully we can all see why this type of approach is going to be a massive enabler for innovation in the future. And that's it for today. Please join me for part 2, where we're going to look at some of the AIOps tools that exist today, what the future could look like for AIOps, and then summing it up and answering my initial question, which was, how can we start to make use of AI/ML if we're not a developer or a data scientist? Coming soon.